The expansion of consciousness. Introduction. Consciousness does not end where the body begins. It is not locked inside the skull, nor is it extinguished when the heart ceases to beat. Consciousness is vast. It stretches beyond time, beyond death, beyond every limit we have been trained to accept. Dolores Cannon spent over 40 years exploring this hidden terrain, guiding thousands of people into the deepest states of trance. Ordinary men and women, when taken beyond the chatter of the surface mind, began to speak with an intelligence that was not limited to this lifetime. That voice, the one Dolores called the Superconscious, revealed a map of reality that is as astonishing as it is consistent. We are fragments of an infinite whole, engaged in a process of endless expansion. Over decades of work, Dolores heard the same story repeated in different words by people from all walks of life and every corner of the globe. Subjects described leaving the body and finding themselves in other lives, some rooted in ancient civilizations long buried beneath history, others unfolding in distant futures or even on planets with skies and colors unknown to Earth. Some remembered existing as pure energy, formless, aware, part of a collective mind. These sessions confirmed again and again that what we call you is not confined to one identity. It is a spark in a vast network of experience, living many lives, learning many lessons, all guided by a higher intelligence. This intelligence, the superconscious, knows why you are here. It knows the purpose of your struggles, the meaning behind the people who enter your path, the hidden value within the pain you endure. And when Dolores called upon it, something extraordinary happened. Tumors vanished, trauma dissolved, healing occurred, not through medicine, not through effort, but through alignment with that higher frequency of mind. What emerged was not just information about past lives or cosmic history, but a demonstration of the creative power that lies dormant within every human being. But perhaps the most urgent discovery Dolores Cannon shared was this: humanity itself is at a turning point. We are not static observers drifting through a meaningless universe. We are creators, shaping the very world we inhabit. And at this moment in history, our collective consciousness is splitting. Two Earths, she said, are forming. One reflects the heavy vibrations of fear, conflict, and chaos. The other resonates with love, harmony, and a higher order of reality. Both exist simultaneously, but which one you experience depends entirely on the frequency you carry inside yourself. It is not a prophecy of destruction, but a revelation of choice. Consciousness expansion, then, is not simply a philosophical idea. It is survival. It is preparation for the shift already underway. To expand your consciousness is to tune yourself to the frequency of the new Earth, to align with the lighter, higher vibration that is already unfolding. It means realizing that every thought is a command, every emotion a tuning fork, every belief a building block of the reality you will inhabit. Fear lowers the frequency, chaining you to the dense earth. Love, curiosity, and trust lift it, aligning you with the higher path. This understanding transforms the way we see life itself. Suffering is not random. Challenges are not punishments. They are chosen lessons, opportunities for growth scripted before birth. Every soul, Dolores found, selects its circumstances with precision. The family, the body, the hardships, and the joys, all carefully placed like stepping stones. From the higher perspective of the superconscious, nothing is wasted, nothing is accidental. Even the greatest pain can be the seed of the greatest expansion. Ancient cultures knew fragments of this truth. Shamans, mystics, and sages spoke of the dream world as a doorway to other realms, of the soul as a traveler through dimensions, of the great shift of ages. Dolores Cannon's work did not invent these ideas. It confirmed them, gave them structure, and showed them alive in the voices of people who had never studied mysticism. Farmers, engineers, schoolteachers. Under trance, they described the same landscapes of the soul, the same higher laws, the same destiny of humanity moving into a new vibrational field. And so this journey begins with a challenge: to question everything you have assumed about what it means to be human. If consciousness is infinite, then death is not an end, but a transition. If the superconscious can heal in an instant, then illness is not an unchangeable sentence, but a misalignment of energy. If humanity is splitting into two realities, then your daily thoughts and emotions are far more powerful than you have ever imagined. Expansion is not optional. It is happening now. The only question is whether you will participate consciously or remain bound to the illusions of limitation.
As you move through the chapters ahead, you will see this map unfold piece by piece, the hidden levels of the mind, the vast dimensions of the soul, the library of records where all knowledge is stored, the laws of vibration that shape your destiny, and the emergence of the new earth. Each step reveals another layer of the same truth. You are not here by accident. You chose this life. You scripted its lessons. And within you lies the key to expand far beyond it. So listen closely. The moment you remember who you are, the boundaries begin to dissolve. Consciousness expands. And once it does, nothing, neither time, nor death, nor fear, can hold you back. Chapter 1. Entering the Superconscious. To understand consciousness expansion, we must begin with the doorway Dolores Cannon opened in her work, The Superconscious Mind. Most of us believe our awareness is divided into two layers. The first is the conscious mind, the everyday chatter that calculates, analyzes, worries, and plans. The second is the subconscious, the hidden reservoir of memories, instincts, and emotions that shape our behavior without our noticing. But Dolores discovered a third level, deeper than both, a level so vast and wise that it seemed to hold the blueprint of our entire existence. She called it the superconscious, or the higher self. It was not a theory. She discovered it by accident. In her earliest hypnosis sessions, Dolores expected her subjects to remember forgotten childhood experiences or perhaps past lives. But instead, when she guided them into what she called the somnambulistic state, something extraordinary happened. A new voice emerged, calm, steady, filled with authority. It spoke of the person's life with total clarity, why they had chosen their parents, what lessons they were here to learn, how their struggles were part of a larger plan. When Dolores asked questions, this voice responded without hesitation, as though it were consulting a library that contained every answer. This was the superconscious, not a separate entity, but a higher aspect of the person themselves. And once it began to speak, something even more astonishing often followed. Healing. Dolores would ask, "Can this illness be removed? Can this body be restored?" And the superconscious would reply, "Yes, if it is appropriate." In many cases, tumors disappeared, chronic pain dissolved, emotional scars that had lasted decades were lifted in a single session. The body responded instantly, as though the deeper mind simply rewrote its own instructions. It was as if the limitations we accept in waking life were only illusions, easily bypassed when we touch the greater field of who we really are. What does this mean for us? It means that within you, right now, there is a level of consciousness that knows the answer to every question you could possibly ask. It knows the root of your fears, the origin of your illnesses, the purpose of your relationships, and the path your soul has chosen through time. And it is not silent. It is always trying to communicate, through dreams, through synchronicities, through the subtle nudges of intuition. The tragedy is that most of us are too distracted, too skeptical, or too afraid to listen. Dolores taught that entering the superconscious is not reserved for special people. It is not a gift granted to a chosen few. It is the natural heritage of every human being. The somnambulistic state she used in her sessions is simply one method of quieting the surface mind so the deeper truth can rise. Meditation, trance, deep prayer, or even spontaneous moments of stillness can open the same doorway. What matters is the willingness to let go of control, to set aside the constant stream of conscious thought and trust the silence that lies beneath. From the perspective of the superconscious, life looks different. Events that seem cruel or meaningless from the surface suddenly reveal their purpose. The painful breakup that shattered your heart may appear as a lesson in self-worth you scripted before birth. The illness that drained your strength may be a catalyst designed to awaken your spirit. Even the most difficult experiences are reframed, not as punishments, but as choices made for growth. The superconscious never speaks with condemnation. It speaks only with clarity and compassion, reminding you that you are not a victim of life. You are a participant in a carefully chosen journey. And this is where consciousness expansion begins. It begins with the recognition that the you speaking these words is only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies a vaster intelligence waiting to be acknowledged. Expansion does not require extraordinary effort. It requires listening. It requires the humility to admit that your waking mind does not see the whole picture, and the courage to invite your deeper self to guide the way. Dolores often said that once the superconscious is touched, you are never the same again. You cannot return to the illusion that you are powerless, that life is random, that death is the end. You begin to see your existence as part of a continuum, an unfolding story in which you are both actor and author. And with that realization comes responsibility. The responsibility to live with awareness, to shape your thoughts carefully, to align your emotions with the frequency of the world you wish to enter. So let us pause and ask, what would happen if you allowed yourself, even for a moment, to trust that deeper voice within you? What would change if you believed that every challenge in your life had been chosen by you, for you? And what healing could occur if you surrendered your fears to the part of yourself that has never been afraid? The superconscious is not far away. It is here. It is now. And as you learn to listen, your consciousness begins to expand, beyond the limits of the mind, beyond the boundaries of time, into the vast reality that Dolores Cannon spent her life mapping. Chapter 2. The Multidimensional Self. When Dolores Cannon began her work, she thought she was exploring past lives. That was already extraordinary enough. The idea that memories could reach beyond the current body, beyond the present century, into other times and other identities. But what she discovered went far beyond simple reincarnation. As her sessions multiplied and the voices of the superconscious spoke through ordinary people, a new picture of reality emerged, one that shattered the comfortable, linear view of time. Again and again, subjects described not just one life before this one, but many. And not only lives in the distant past, but it lives that seem to be unfolding simultaneously. A soldier marching with Rome's legions, a woman tending her children in medieval France, a healer in a far future where Earth looked nothing like it does today. Some of these lifetimes were separated by centuries, others by millennia, but in trance they were all happening at once. The revelation was clear. Consciousness is not linear. It is multidimensional. Imagine a great prism, clear and perfect. When a beam of light passes through it, the light does not disappear. It splits, refracts, scatters into a rainbow of colors. Each ray shines in its own direction, its own frequency, but all are still part of the original light. Dolores Cannon's subjects describe the soul in this way. At its core, it is a single beam of divine consciousness, but when it enters the field of time and matter, it refracts into many expressions, each exploring a different reality. You, the listener, are one of those expressions. But you are not the only one. From the limited view of the waking mind, this is hard to grasp. We are trained to think of life as a line: birth, youth, adulthood, death, and then, perhaps, another life somewhere far in the future. But the superconscious tells a different story. It says time is not a straight path. It is an ocean. Past, present, and future are not lined up one after another. They coexist, like waves rising and falling on the same sea. To the soul, a Roman soldier and a modern teacher are not separated by 2,000 years. They are simply two experiences unfolding in the same great now. This is why people sometimes feel an uncanny familiarity when they visit a place for the first time. Why a stranger's face can stir emotions that make no sense in this lifetime. Why dreams slip into scenes and roles that feel more like memories than imagination. These are not random tricks of the brain. They are glimpses, brief openings, into the wider field of the multidimensional self. Across thousands of sessions, Cannon documented remarkably consistent accounts of multidimensional existence. In one regression, a subject recalled living as a monk, cloistered in silence, poring over manuscripts by candlelight. In another recalled life, that same consciousness described being a scientist on a distant world, manipulating energy through thought alone. In yet another, the soul reported existing as formless awareness within a collective mind. When asked to describe this experience, the subject said, "I am not an individual. I am part of a greater chorus. We sing together, and in our harmony we know ourselves." The human mind resists this truth. We cling to our individuality as though it were absolute, but the superconscious insists, individuality is a costume, a role played for the sake of learning. In one lifetime you may play the role of a king, in another, a beggar. In one, you are the oppressor, in another, the oppressed. Over the span of many lives, the soul experiences all roles, all perspectives, so that its understanding expands. No single lifetime can contain the full breadth of experience, just as no single color can capture the fullness of light. This is why judgment has no place at the level of the soul. The failures you carry like chains may be balanced by triumphs in another existence. The cruelty you once endured may be offset by the compassion you expressed in another role. From the vantage of the superconscious, nothing is wasted, nothing is meaningless. Every experience adds to the expansion, and here lies the challenge: the waking mind forgets. When you were born into this life, you agreed to forget the others. You chose to narrow your focus to this role, this body, this script, so you could experience it fully. Forgetting is not a flaw, it is part of the design. A play would lose its power if the actor broke character and remembered every other role. So too would your life lose its intensity if you constantly remembered the 1,000 other versions of yourself. The forgetting allows you to immerse yourself in this particular lesson. Yet, even with the forgetting, traces remain: a sudden talent for music with no training, a language that feels natural though you've never studied it, a fear that has no cause in your present life. These are echoes of the other selves bleeding through. They remind you that you are larger than this single story. Dolores often compared it to the pages of a book. When you are on page 50, the earlier pages do not cease to exist, nor do the latter ones. They are all present, bound in the same book. Your awareness is simply focused on the page in front of you. But if you could lift your head, you would see that the entire story is already there, beginning, middle, and end. That is how the superconscious views your lifetimes, not as separate stories, but as chapters of the same volume, unfolding all at once. This realization changes everything. It means that who you are, is not limited to your name, your age, your job, or your struggles. You are a traveler moving through many landscapes of reality, gathering wisdom across them all. Expansion of consciousness means remembering this truth. It means loosening your grip on the illusion that this one role defines you. It means opening yourself to the possibility that you are, at this very moment, living other lives, learning other lessons, and that all of them belong to you. Think of what this does to fear. Fear thrives on limitation. It tells you that death is the end, that failure is final, that loss is absolute. But if you are multidimensional, fear loses its teeth. Death is not an ending, but a shift of focus. Failure in one role is balanced by growth in another. Loss in one life is tempered by reunion in another. When you see yourself as vast, the grip of fear loosens, and in its place rises courage. And think, too, of what this does to how you treat others. If every soul is living many lives, then every person you meet is more than they appear. That stranger across from you may be another expression of your own greater self. The one who angers you today may be the one who saved you in another time. Consciousness expansion reveals the hidden threads of unity binding us together. We are not isolated beings bumping into one another by accident. We are facets of a single jewel, reflecting light from different angles. Dolores Cannon's work showed that remembering this truth is not optional. It is essential for the evolution of humanity. A species that believes itself limited, fragile, and separate will destroy itself. But a species that remembers its multidimensional nature will rise. The choice is before us now, to cling to the illusion of separation or to expand into the truth of our greater self. The multidimensional self is not a theory to be debated in philosophy halls. It is a living reality, and you are living it right now, whether you remember or not. The only question is whether you will awaken to it. For the moment you do, life changes, the boundaries soften, the fear dissolves, and you begin to live as you truly are, a vast consciousness forever expanding. Chapter 3. The Records of the Soul. If consciousness is multidimensional, as Dolores Cannon's work revealed, then the question naturally arises, where is all this information stored? How can a single person under trance recall not only other lifetimes, but knowledge far beyond their education, their culture, and sometimes even the limits of human history? The answer, repeated again and again through Dolores's sessions, is that there exists a field, a vast repository of memory and meaning that has been called many names. Some traditions speak of the Akashic records. Others call it the Hall of Records, the Library of Light, or simply the Book of Life. Dolores came to understand it as the universal archive of the soul, and her subjects described it in strikingly consistent detail. They told her of entering spaces that looked like grand libraries, endless halls filled with shelves of glowing books or scrolls of light. Some described crystalline structures that shimmered with information, each facet containing the story of a lifetime. Others saw living energy fields, pulsating and shifting like holograms, where knowledge could be absorbed without words. No matter the imagery, the essence was the same. Everything that has ever happened and everything that will ever happen exists within this field, accessible to consciousness when it rises to the right vibration. The records are not merely passive storage. They are alive, responsive, and interactive. When a person enters them under deep trance, the information does not simply sit on a page. It flows directly into the mind, unfolding as vision, sound, or inner knowing. The subject does not read about their past lives. They relive them, step into them, feel the emotions, taste the air, walk the landscapes. The records transmit experience itself, as though consciousness were rewinding and replaying its own movie reels. This is why Dolores's work was so powerful. It was not speculation, not belief imposed from outside. It was direct testimony, lived and relived by ordinary people. A farmer in Arkansas could describe with precision the rituals of an Egyptian priesthood. A housewife with no training in astronomy could recount the physics of distant star systems. A teenager could speak fluently in a dialect centuries dead. These were not performances or inventions of the imagination. They were echoes from the records, surfacing when the conscious mind stepped aside. Why does this matter for consciousness expansion? Because the records reveal that memory is not confined to the brain. Knowledge is not trapped in grey matter. Instead, the mind is like a receiver, tuning into the larger field where all information resides. Just as a radio does not create music but draws it from invisible frequencies, so too does the human mind draw awareness from the universal archive. The expansion of consciousness is the tuning of this inner receiver, learning to shift beyond static into the signal of truth. But there is more. The records are not only about the past, they also hold the potential of the future. Under trance, some of Dolores's subjects described events yet to unfold, technological advancements, shifts in Earth's climate, even encounters with other forms of intelligence. The Superconscious often explained that the future is not fixed, but fluid, shaped by choices and probabilities. What appears in the records as a future is not destiny carved in stone, but the strongest of the possible paths. Change your choices, shift your vibration, and the path alters. This is why the records are both humbling and empowering. They show us that the universe is lawfully structured, that nothing is lost, that every thought, every word, every action ripples into the field. But they also remind us that we are not prisoners of fate. The script is malleable, the story ever evolving, because consciousness itself is the author. To expand your awareness of the records is to realize that you are not just an actor moving through a predestined play. You are also the playwright, adjusting the lines as you grow. Dolores emphasized that access to this field is not limited to deep hypnosis. Mystics and visionaries have touched it in moments of prayer, meditation, or spontaneous awakening. You too can glimpse it in flashes of déjà vu, in dreams that feel like messages, in sudden insights that arrive fully formed. These are moments when the veil thins and the records whisper through. The key is attention. Most of us dismiss such experiences as imagination or coincidence, but if you pause, honor them, record them and reflect, you strengthen your connection to the field. Slowly, the whispers grow clearer, the images sharper, until what once felt like chance becomes guidance. Consider what this means for how you live. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every choice you make is recorded, not as judgment, but as truth. The records are not a court of condemnation. They are a mirror. When you expand your consciousness to glimpse them, you are not punished for your actions. You simply see them in their fullness, with all their effects. The words you spoke to another, you will feel from their perspective. The kindness you offered will glow like light. The harm you caused will return as sensation in your own heart. This is not punishment. It is learning. It is expansion through empathy. And this is why the records are so central to the evolution of consciousness. They ensure that nothing is wasted, no lesson is lost. Every life, every moment contributes to the whole. The soul grows by seeing the ripples of its actions, by integrating the wisdom of its many selves, by weaving together the threads of countless stories into one tapestry of understanding. Dolores Cannon often said that the records are not locked away in some distant realm. They are woven into the very fabric of consciousness. The higher self can access them at will because it lives in the field beyond time. To live with expanded consciousness is to align yourself with that perspective, not waiting for hypnosis or death to reveal the truth, but beginning here and now to live with the awareness that everything matters, everything is connected, everything is remembered. So let us pause and ask, if you knew that every thought, every word, every action is inscribed in the eternal archive of your soul, how would you live differently? Would you be more careful with your words, more generous with your love, more courageous in your choices? The records are not meant to frighten you. They are meant to awaken you to the power you already hold. The expansion of consciousness is not about escaping this world. It is about living more fully within it, with the awareness that your life is part of a greater whole. The records remind you that you are not small, not forgotten, not adrift. You are a chapter in a book that stretches across time and eternity. And you are also the author, pen in hand, writing the next page. Chapter 4. Healing Through Frequency. If the superconscious holds the wisdom of the soul, and the records contain every experience across time, then what does this mean for the body you live in now? Dolores Cannon's most remarkable discovery was that consciousness does not only remember, it heals. Again and again in her sessions, she saw illnesses vanish, chronic pain dissolve, and emotional scars fade, not through drugs or surgery, but through the reprogramming of energy. The higher self, when called forth, could reach into the body's blueprint and restore balance instantly. Dolores called this the law of frequency. Every thought, every emotion, every belief vibrates at a certain rate. Over time, these vibrations shape the body, much like music shapes the strings of an instrument. Anger, fear, guilt, and despair create dissonance, frequencies that disrupt the body's natural harmony. Love, forgiveness, trust, and joy, on the other hand, restore it. When imbalance persists, it manifests as illness. But when the vibration shifts, the illness can dissolve, sometimes in a matter of seconds. She witnessed this many times. A woman with severe back pain entered a trance session. The pain had lasted for years, limiting her movement and draining her spirit. When Dolores asked the superconscious to explain, it revealed that the pain was not purely physical. It was the weight of guilt from a past life, carried forward into the present. The moment the client acknowledged the lesson and forgave herself, the pain lifted. She left the session free of the agony that had ruled her body for so long. In another case, a man with lung disease struggled to breathe, tethered to the fear of suffocation. Under hypnosis, the superconscious revealed that his lungs carried the memory of a past life in which he had drowned. The trauma, unresolved, had followed him into this incarnation. As the memory was brought into awareness and released, his breathing changed. Over the weeks that followed, his condition improved dramatically. These were not isolated events. Dolores saw patterns repeat: tumors shrinking, arthritis fading, addictions losing their grip, phobias vanishing. Each time, the mechanism was the same. The higher self would explain the root cause, not in medical terms, but in vibrational ones. The illness was the body's way of communicating a misalignment of energy, a lesson ignored, an emotion suppressed. Once the lesson was understood and the frequency realigned, the condition could disappear. This is why Dolores insisted that healing is not about fighting disease, it is about listening to it. Illness is not an enemy, but a message. It is the body's way of telling you that something in your vibration is out of harmony. Expand your consciousness, hear the message, shift the frequency, and the body will respond. Think of a wine glass struck by a pure note. If the frequency matches, the glass vibrates until it shatters. In the same way, when the frequency of your thoughts aligns with love, trust, and harmony, dissonance cannot remain. The illness dissolves because its vibrational root has been dismantled. This is not fantasy, it is a principle echoed across cultures and sciences. Ancient healers used chants and tones to shift energy. Mystics spoke of the body as a vessel shaped by thought. Even modern physics hints at it. Matter is not solid but vibration, patterns of energy condensed into form. To change the form, you must change the frequency. Dolores saw that the higher self has full access to this vibrational blueprint. It can repair DNA, dissolve cellular memory, and redirect energy flows. But it always acts according to one principle: appropriateness. If the illness has already fulfilled its purpose, if the lesson is learned, it can be removed. But if the soul still needs the experience for growth, the illness will remain until the expansion is complete. Healing is not a shortcut. It is a recognition that every condition serves a purpose in the larger journey of consciousness. What does this mean for you, here and now? It means that your health is not only in the hands of doctors or medicine. It is in your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. Every fear you nurture, every resentment you cling to, every wound you refuse to forgive lowers your frequency and strains the body. Every act of kindness, every moment of gratitude, every choice to love instead of hate raises your frequency and restores balance. You are shaping your health at this very moment through the vibrations you generate. Dolores often reminded her clients, your body is not separate from your mind. It is your mind made visible. When you expand your consciousness to include this truth, you stop treating symptoms as enemies and start treating them as teachers. You begin to ask, what is my body trying to tell me? What emotion have I ignored? What lesson am I resisting? The answers, when they come, are the first step toward true healing. And this is not only about physical illness. Emotional wounds, too, are vibrations stored in the body. Trauma that is never faced can echo for lifetimes, shaping relationships, choices, and even the body's posture. But when consciousness expands to embrace the wound, when it is acknowledged with compassion and released, the frequency shifts. The soul is freed, and the pattern dissolves. Imagine, then, what humanity could be if we lived with this awareness. Hospitals would not only treat bodies, they would treat frequencies. Education would not only train minds, it would cultivate vibrations of creativity and joy. Conflict would not only be managed, it would be understood as a symptom of collective dissonance. Consciousness expansion reveals that healing is not a miracle. It is the natural state, once we remember who we are. Dolores Cannon's sessions proved this again and again. People walked in broken and walked out whole, not because she healed them, but because she helped them access the part of themselves that never needed healing. The higher self is always whole. The body is always capable of reflecting that wholeness if we let it. Healing, then, is the alignment of vibration, the tuning of the instrument of the body until it plays in harmony with the music of the soul. So the next time you feel pain, instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this?" try asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" When you feel fear, ask, "What part of me has forgotten its connection to the whole?" When you feel ill, ask, "What vibration is asking to be released?" These questions open the doorway to the superconscious, where healing waits. The expansion of consciousness is not just about glimpsing other lives or touching cosmic libraries. It is about living here and now with the awareness that you are energy, and energy responds to thought. Healing through frequency is not reserved for mystics or for hypnosis sessions. It is your birthright. It is the natural expression of who you truly are. Chapter 5. The Great Shift of Earth. If Dolores Cannon's discoveries about the superconscious, the multidimensional self, and the records of the soul revealed the hidden architecture of reality, then what she uncovered next shook even her. Over the course of thousands of regressions, subjects from different backgrounds, religions, and countries began to speak of a single event, an event that transcended culture and language. They described a transformation already underway, a great turning of the Earth itself, not merely as a planet of rock and soil, but as a living field of consciousness. Dolores called it the shift. At first, she thought it was symbolic, a metaphor for personal growth. But the testimonies kept coming, consistent and urgent. The shift, they said, was not symbolic at all. It was literal, vibrational, cosmic. Humanity was dividing into two paths, two frequencies, two Earths. One Earth would remain in the density of fear, conflict, and material illusion. The other would rise into a higher vibration, a realm of harmony, cooperation, and expanded awareness. Both would exist simultaneously, but individuals would experience one or the other depending on the frequency they carried within themselves. This was not a prediction of an apocalypse. Dolores's subjects were clear. The Earth was not ending, it was evolving. Just as a caterpillar must dissolve into a chrysalis before it becomes a butterfly, so too was humanity entering a metamorphosis. The old world, heavy with violence, greed, and separation, was breaking apart. A new world, luminous and unified, was forming, and each soul was choosing, through thought and emotion, which world it would inhabit. Consider the gravity of this. It means that the reality you perceive is not fixed. It is tuned, like a radio, to the frequency of your inner state. If you live in fear, anger, and despair, you align with the denser Earth, where chaos intensifies and survival dominates. If you live in love, trust, and compassion, you align with the higher Earth, where cooperation replaces conflict and consciousness expands beyond its current limits. The shift is not a punishment or a reward. It is a sorting by resonance. Dolores often compared it to an elevator. Imagine two elevators rising side by side. At first, they are close, their doors opening onto the same floor. But as time passes, one ascends faster, climbing to higher and higher levels. At first, you can step from one to the other, but eventually the gap widens and the doors no longer meet. The choice must be made before the separation is complete. Which elevator you enter depends not on belief or ritual, but on the frequency you carry inside. This is why the shift is urgent. It is not about waiting for an external savior or fearing a doomsday prophecy. It is about aligning your consciousness now. Every thought, every word, every choice moves you closer to one Earth or the other. You cannot fake it. You cannot trick the frequency. It is revealed in the vibration of your being. Subjects described the higher Earth in radiant terms. They spoke of a planet where nature thrives, where human beings live in harmony with the Earth instead of exploiting it, where communication is telepathic and instant, where energy is free and abundant, where fear has no foothold. They described cities of light, not built of stone and steel, but of resonance and geometry, where form reflects the harmony of vibration. They spoke of a world where the veils between dimensions are thin, where souls remember their other lives, where death is no longer feared because continuity is known. The lower earth, by contrast, was described in terms of heaviness. More wars, more division, more obsession with control and material power. On that earth, technology advanced but was used destructively. The environment collapsed. People became increasingly isolated, blind to the higher truths, trapped in cycles of fear. Those who could not or would not shift remained there, repeating lessons until they were ready to rise. For many, this teaching was difficult to accept. Two earths? Parallel realities splitting? But Dolores pointed out that physics itself hints at such truths. Theories of multiple universes, of parallel dimensions, of probabilities branching from each choice, all align with what her subjects described. And what science only suggests, consciousness experiences directly. The shift is not a prophecy of destruction, it is an invitation to expansion. Dolores's work made it clear. The soul chose to incarnate in this time because of the shift. To live through this transition is a privilege, a chance to accelerate growth, to witness humanity stepping into a new chapter of evolution. Many of her subjects revealed that entire civilizations across the cosmos are watching, waiting to see if humanity will succeed. The Earth, they said, is not a backwater world, it is a crucible, a school of transformation, and its graduation will echo across galaxies. So what must you do to align with the higher Earth? Dolores's message was simple, though not easy. Watch your frequency. Guard your thoughts. Release fear. Choose love. Every day, you are voting with your vibration. When you react with anger, you tune to the lower. When you respond with compassion, you tune to the higher. The shift does not ask you to be perfect, but it does require sincerity. The frequency cannot be faked. This teaching reframes the challenges of our world. The chaos, the conflicts, the upheavals we see are not signs of failure, but of transition. The old structures are crumbling because they cannot survive in the higher vibration. Corruption, greed, violence. These are dense frequencies, and the rising earth cannot sustain them. They must be exposed, confronted, and released. It may look like destruction, but it is birth. Dolores often said, "You are living in the most important time in the history of the planet. Don't waste it by being afraid fear locks you into the density. Love lifts you out. The shift is not happening to you, it is happening through you. The earth is not separate from your consciousness, it is the mirror of it. Expand your consciousness, and you expand the earth itself." This chapter of humanity is not written in stone. It is being written in the frequencies we hold. Each thought is a brushstroke. Each emotion is a color. Together, we are painting the reality we will inhabit. The choice is before us every day. Will we descend into fear or ascend into love? The great shift of Earth is not a myth. It is the living reality of this moment. And the question is not whether it will happen. It is already happening. The question is whether you will choose to rise with it. Chapter 6. Living as a Multidimensional Being. By now the map has unfolded. The superconscious that holds infinite wisdom, the multidimensional self that stretches across lifetimes, the records of the soul where all is remembered, the law of frequency that governs healing, and the great shift that is reshaping our world. But these revelations would mean little if they remained as ideas alone. Dolores Cannon insisted that they were not theories to be admired from a distance. They were guides for how to live here and now. To expand your consciousness is not simply to know, it is to embody. It is to live as a multidimensional being. What does that look like in practice? It begins with awareness. Most people move through life half asleep, convinced they are no more than their name, their job, their body, and their struggles. To live multidimensionally is to wake up from that narrow dream. It is to remember, in each moment, that you are more. That the I who listens to these words is only a fragment of a vast self spread across time and space. That every choice, every thought, every emotion is shaping not just this life, but the resonance of all your lives. Awareness is the first step, and it is also the hardest, for the world constantly conspires to make you forget. But once you remember, even faintly, you begin to see life differently. Challenges are no longer punishments, but lessons you scripted before birth. That difficult relationship becomes a mirror, showing you the part of yourself that still longs for healing. That illness becomes a teacher, urging you to release an emotion you have clung to. That failure becomes a doorway, reminding you that the soul learns as much from stumbling as from soaring. Living multidimensionally means interpreting every experience from the perspective of growth, not victimhood. The second practice is alignment. To live as a multidimensional being, you must tune your vibration to the frequency of the reality you wish to inhabit. This is not about pretending everything is perfect or suppressing your pain. It is about consciously choosing which emotions you will feed. Fear will always whisper, anger will always tempt, despair will always knock. But you are not obliged to let them stay. Each time you choose love instead of resentment, trust instead of fear, gratitude instead of bitterness, you raise your frequency. And with that frequency, you step closer to the higher earth, closer to the new human that is being born. Dolores emphasized that alignment is not about grand gestures. It is about daily choices. Do you speak words that uplift or words that wound? Do you dwell on thoughts of limitation or thoughts of possibility? Do you carry resentment, or do you release it through forgiveness? Each act is a tuning fork, vibrating you into harmony or dissonance. Expansion of consciousness means taking responsibility for your frequency, moment by moment, day by day. The third practice is connection. To live multidimensionally is to recognize that you are never alone. You are connected to your higher self, which whispers guidance in dreams and intuition. You are connected to your parallel selves, who walk other paths of the soul and feed their lessons back into you. You are connected to the collective consciousness of humanity, which is why your private thoughts ripple outward and shape the whole. And you are connected to the earth itself, a living being whose shift mirrors your own. Connection means remembering that every action touches the web of reality. It means treating others not as strangers, but as fellow travelers, other faces of the same infinite self. This awareness changes how you live. You begin to listen more deeply. You pause before speaking, knowing that words are frequencies that echo in the records. You forgive more easily, knowing that harm to another is harm to yourself. You create more courageously, knowing that inspiration flows from the same well of consciousness that births stars. You live with reverence, knowing that life is not random but sacred, scripted with precision by the soul. Dolores Cannon's work revealed that living multidimensionally also means opening yourself to communication with the higher self. You do not need to be under hypnosis to ask questions of this greater intelligence. You can do it each night before sleep by setting an intention. Show me what I need to know. Guide me to what I must learn. You can do it in meditation, by quieting the surface mind and listening to the subtler voice beneath. You can do it in waking life by noticing synchronicities, those so-called coincidences that are in truth messages from the deeper field. The more you ask, the more you trust, the clearer the guidance becomes. And perhaps most importantly, Living as a multidimensional being means embracing responsibility. If you are truly vast, if you are truly eternal, then you can no longer cling to helplessness. You cannot blame fate, or luck, or chance. You cannot live as though you are powerless. Expansion of consciousness demands accountability for your thoughts, for your emotions, for the world you co-create. This is not a burden, it is liberation. For if you created this reality, you can create another. If you scripted this lesson, you can write a new chapter. Responsibility is freedom disguised as duty. As humanity stands at the threshold of the great shift, this responsibility becomes urgent. The earth itself is rising, and it calls each soul to rise with it. You are not here by accident. You chose to incarnate in this moment, to witness this transformation, to participate in it. You may feel small in the face of global upheaval, but the frequency you hold is part of the collective equation. Every act of love, every moment of clarity, every vibration of joy contributes to the balance. You are a cell in the body of Earth, and the health of the whole depends on you. So what does it mean to live as a multidimensional being? It means waking up each morning and remembering, I am more than this body, more than this life, more than this fear. It means walking through the world with reverence, knowing that every face is another fragment of yourself. It means tuning your frequency to love, even when fear is easier. It means listening to the whispers of your higher self, even when the noise of the world grows loud. It means living with the awareness that you are eternal, infinite, expanding. And when you live this way, something extraordinary happens. The boundaries begin to dissolve. Dreams become clearer. Synchronicities multiply. Intuition sharpens. Healing flows more easily. Life ceases to feel random and begins to feel like a conversation with the soul. The mundane becomes sacred, and every moment becomes an opportunity for expansion. Dolores Cannon's message was clear. You are not waiting for a savior, for an event, for a miracle. The shift is not outside of you. It is inside of you, unfolding with every choice you make. To live as a multidimensional being is to align yourself with that truth, to participate consciously in the greatest transformation humanity has ever known. The journey does not end here. In truth, it never ends. Consciousness expands forever, branching into realms we can scarcely imagine. But for now, the invitation is simple. Live with awareness, align with love, honor your connections, and accept responsibility for your frequency. Do this, and you will find yourself not only surviving the shift, but thriving in it, awakening fully to the vastness of who you are. Epilogue. The journey continues. Every journey has a resting place, a pause between chapters, but consciousness itself never ends. It flows onward, expanding, evolving, weaving new realities from the threads of thought and intention. Dolores Cannon devoted her life to reminding us of this truth, that who we are is not confined to a single body, a single moment, or even a single earth. We are travelers in an endless cosmos of experience, sparks of an infinite fire that never goes out. Throughout these chapters, you have walked the pathways Dolores mapped. You have glimpsed the superconscious, that higher aspect of yourself that knows more than the waking mind dares to imagine. You have seen the multidimensional self, living many lives at once, each a prism of the same light. You have entered the records of the soul, where nothing is lost and every choice is remembered. You have felt the power of frequency, the way thought and emotion shape the body and the world, and you have stood at the threshold of the great shift, where humanity itself divides into two paths, each chosen by vibration. But these are not destinations. They are doorways. To hear them as concepts is one thing, to live them is another. The journey continues the moment you open your eyes each morning. It continues in the words you speak, the thoughts you nurture, the emotions you feed. Expansion of consciousness is not found in distant galaxies. It is found in the way you respond to the challenges of your day. Will you choose fear, or will you choose love? Will you act as though you are separate, or as though you are part of the whole? These choices are the true markers of awakening. Dolores often said that souls lined up to be alive at this time. Of all the centuries, all the ages, you chose now. Why? Because this is the great turning. This is the moment when humanity remembers its vastness, when the old world cracks open to reveal the new. To live through this transition is not a punishment, it is a privilege. You are here because your soul knew you were ready. Ready to face the fear, ready to hold the light, ready to expand in ways you never imagined. So do not think of yourself as small. Do not think of yourself as powerless. Every breath you take, every thought you send, contributes to the frequency of the whole. You are part of the shift. You are part of the expansion. The universe itself leans in, waiting to see what you will create. And what of death? That old shadow that haunts the human heart. Dolores's work made it clear. Death is not the end, but another beginning. Consciousness steps through the veil, reviews the lessons learned, chooses the next chapter, and continues. The journey is endless, the adventure eternal. Fear of death dissolves when you see it for what it is, a doorway to more expansion. With this awareness, you are free, not only free to die, but free to live, fully, boldly, without hesitation. The journey continues too in the connections you make. Every soul you meet is another reflection of the greater self. Some will challenge you, some will wound you, some will lift you higher than you thought possible. All of them are teachers. All of them are threads in the tapestry you are weaving. When you begin to see others not as obstacles or enemies, but as fellow travelers, the illusion of separation falls away. Compassion arises naturally, and with it, the frequency of love. In the end, this is the heart of consciousness expansion. Love. Not sentimental love, not the fleeting emotions of romance, but the deeper vibration of unity. Love is recognition that we are one being exploring itself through many faces. Love is the frequency that heals the body, dissolves fear, and aligns you with the higher earth. Love is the foundation of the new world waiting to be born. So as you step beyond this book, ask yourself, how will I live this truth? Will I let fear dictate my choices, or will I align with love? Will I shrink back into the illusion of limitation, or will I expand into the vastness of who I am? The journey is yours to continue. Dolores Cannon's voice echoes only as a reminder of what you already know. The answers are not in her books, nor in her sessions, but in your own superconscious, waiting for you to listen. The path forward is not complicated. It is simple, though not always easy. Wake up each day with awareness. Guard your thoughts. Choose your frequency. Trust your higher self. Live as if every moment matters, because it does. Live as though you are part of something vast, because you are. Live as though love is the foundation of reality, because it is. And when you falter, as every soul does, remember, the journey does not end. You will have another chance, another lesson, another life. Consciousness expands endlessly, patiently, lovingly. The universe is not in a hurry. It is infinite, and so are you. So let us end here, not with closure, but with an opening. The journey continues, and you are already on it. Walk with courage. Walk with awareness. Walk with love. And the expansion of your consciousness will carry you into worlds you cannot yet imagine, worlds that await, worlds that are already yours.